Multitech Products Corporation, setting the standard for composite repair systems and supplies in the spa and bath industry. These buffing and polishing techniques will apply to most composite surfaces, such as acrylic, ABS, cultured marble, gel coat, and most plastics. In some circumstances, damage may occur through the manufacturing process, transport and customer delivery, heavy usage and neglect, requiring buffing and polishing. This video was developed keeping the dealer and end user in mind, addressing issues such as light to moderate scratches that do not penetrate through the color or clear layer of most composite surfaces. Bringing the surface back to its original gloss and appearance with ease, using professional materials and techniques. Be sure to use high-quality tape and masking paper where necessary. Beware when machine polishing. Compound spray can be difficult to remove from deep crevices. When preparing the area to sand and polish, such as in spas and bathware, be sure to tape off and/or remove escutcheons, jets, overflow, skimmer, and/or cabinet areas that could come into contact with the sanding or the buffing process. Equipment recommendations include a high-grade 1 1/2 refinisher's masking paper or newspaper, alcohol solution for surface preparation, a water spray bottle for wet sanding, a polishing cloth, soft cotton or soft absorbent paper towels, a flexible sanding block, and a mini buffing pad set up for tight or small areas used with a high-speed drill. This required equipment is essential to perform the highest quality job with professional results. Wet-dry type sandpaper, 3M or carborundum brand. Medium grit rubbing compound, hand glaze finishing compound. Plexus cleaner sealer, electric variable speed buffer polisher, at least 2500 RPM or equivalent. Buffing pad extender, keeps buffing pad extended away from polisher. Dual-sided buffing pad, wool on one side that's white, and wool acrylic blend on the other side that's yellow. When the buff pad is new, run the buffer outdoors, using the buffing pad spur cleaner against the pad, eliminating the loose fibers or fuzz from the pad. Required personal protection. Safety glasses, latex or nitrile gloves, a Teflon or cloth apron, an appropriate organic respirator when handling solvents in poorly ventilated areas. For professional results, follow these procedures. Begin with cleaning the damaged area using the alcohol solution or surface prep cleaner. If the unit or part has rubbed against another object, the abrasions may simply wipe away. Assess the degree of the damaged or gouged area by the roughest grit sandpaper required to remove the damage. Use this guide. A pencil line width scratch will require a progression of sanding. Start with 320 grit sandpaper. In severe cases, a low grit coarse sandpaper may be required. For example, 220 or 100 grit. For the beginner, we recommend starting with 320 grit first, then 400 grit sandpaper, progressing to the higher grit sandpaper. Smaller or finer scratches will require starting with less aggressive sandpaper grit, such as 400 or 600 grit, then progressing to higher or finer grit sandpaper. With the surface clean and free of dust, dirt, and adhesives, begin wet sanding the repaired or scratched area, beginning with the appropriate sandpaper. In this case, we are starting with 320 grit. If the scratches are very light, start with 400 or 600 grit sandpaper. Using a circular motion, holding the sandpaper in the flat of your fingers, or on a sanding block, wet sand the damaged or repaired area extending past the first scratches. Dry the area with a dry cloth and inspect to see if any damage or deep scratches are still present. Repeat wet sanding with 320 grit until the deeper scratches are gone. Next, continue wet sanding in a circular motion with 400 grit sandpaper, extending past the 320 grit scratches. Dry the surface, inspect, and move on to 600 grit wet sanding. Continue sanding with 1000 grit, 1500 grit, and finishing with 2000 grit. With each higher grit sandpaper, the sanded area extends out, larger and larger, creating a feathering effect of the progression of sandpaper grit number. Dry off the area, inspect, repeat in necessary areas, and you are ready to buff and polish the surface. For professional results, a minimum of a 2500 RPM speed buffer polisher is essential. In tight areas and very small areas, a drill setup will be sufficient. Be sure to use a variable speed drill with a minimum of 2500 RPMs. Hand polishing is not recommended. Apply the rubbing compound evenly and generously over the sanded area using a chip brush or spreader. Caution: hold the buffer polisher with the cord up and over your shoulder to prevent it from wrapping around the shaft. Using the white wool side of the buffing pad, spin the buffer into the compound, onto the surface, slowly allowing the pad to absorb the compound. Gradually, start the buffing process, taking care not to spray compound onto other surfaces. For best results, run the buffer polisher at a moderate to higher speed, applying moderate to heavy pressure at the buffing pad, working the compound into the surface. Be sure not to spin the buffer with the pad centered onto the surface, but more at an angle, as the metal center could cause damage to the surface. Repeat this process until an acceptable gloss is achieved. At this stage, there still may be swirl marks and a film of compound on the surface. To polish the surface to its original gloss, repeat the process by flipping over the pad to the yellow finishing side. Apply a moderate amount of hand glaze in the same manner to the surface as with the compound with low RPMs and light pressure. Work the hand glaze into the finish, achieving a nice luster. For the finishing touch, apply the Plexus Spray Cleaner Sealer onto the surface and rub softly with a clean cotton cloth or towel. While there is no warranty by Multi-Tech products, written or implied, to a large degree, the success and final repair results will fall upon the expertise and experience of the individual performing the repair taught in this video. Materials and equipment used in this video may be purchased at multitechproducts.com, specializing in acrylic repair systems, fiberglass, and gel coat repair products. For more information and technical support, call 800-218-2066. For redistribution of this video, volume discounts with substantial savings are available at www.multitechproducts.com.